Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene took aim at Representative Nancy Mace for her criticism of Majority Leader Steve Scalise, calling it a disgusting attack. Mace on Wednesday said she couldn't vote for Scalise as the next House Speaker because he attended a white supremacist conference and compared himself to David Duke. Greene, like Mace, said she was supporting House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan to replace House Speaker Kevin McCarthy after he was ousted last week from the role. However, she claimed that South Carolina Republicans' comments about Scalise, who won the nomination for the top GOP spot, were unfair. I'm supporting Jim Jordan for Speaker. I'm not supporting Scalise. Greene reiterated in a lengthy thread on X, the platform formerly known as Twitter. I like Scalise, and as I said, I want him to beat cancer, and he should be focused on that. What I do think is an unfair and quite frankly disgusting attack is members of our conference using Democratic talking points, she continued, adding that they are using the same lines of attack that Democrats use against every single Republican, every single election, every single day in these halls of Congress to attack Steve. Sharing a video clip of Mace, Greene said Scalise isn't a white supremacist. We all know that he's a good man. Mace referring to reports that Scalise had compared himself to the Ku Klux Klan Grand Wizard at an event years ago, reportedly calling himself David Duke without the baggage. In her post, Greene argued that Mace was suggesting that half the conference supports a white supremacist, which could give Democrats ammunition against half our conference. I want a speaker we can all unite behind, and one that reflects what our Republican voters want. They want an agenda like President Trump, she wrote. I want a party that's not always splintered into 5 factions. I want a party that's a single fist so we can knock out the Democrats and save this country. House Republicans appear to still be divided on whom to advance as the next speaker after 8 of them joined forces with all of the Democrats last week in a historic vote to take the gavel away from McCarthy. The House Republican Conference narrowly voted Wednesday to nominate Scalise as Speaker, and with a slim 113 to 99 majority, but more than a dozen House Republicans have said that they will back someone other than Scalise on the House floor instead. So, Scalise is someone who, the most memorable thing about him was getting shot about 6 years ago, and I, as someone who doesn't probably agree with him on anything, did not want that to happen. I was glad he recovered. I don't support violence against political figures. I think that's something I've stated repeatedly. But I also don't allow myself to not remember that a lot of times these people are problematic in either their policy beliefs or other types of rhetoric. Scalise comparing himself to David Duke, whether he's going around wearing white robes or not, is not something that any political party would favor or otherwise find to be a good thing for someone in a leadership position to say and be like, oh yeah, that's going to be our next speaker. And so when Greene says they're using the Democratic talking points, no, Mace is reluctant to put someone with that type of background as the top Republican in the House, because he will become the symbol of his party for the next year or so, and unless they get rid of him like they did McCarthy. We have musical chair speakers. And from that point onward, you're going to end up seeing a lot of Democratic ads. They're going to say, hey, the Republicans appoint a guy who said he's David Duke without the baggage. You want someone like that leading your supposed equality-giving country of America? So she's really more so worried about their party being able to win elections with someone like that as their symbol. But Greene writes it off as an attack and says that, this is what they're going to use. They use this against every... where's that nonsense? That they use this type of attack against every single Republican, every single election, every single day. Well, I don't know. I mean, how many Republicans, if you went and looked at their public remarks, you go and track the different speeches they've given, would say that they're David Duke without the baggage? Like, surely there's conservatives that have never said that or indicated any desire to be affiliated or seen or even compared themselves to someone who's part of a, in a leadership role of a hate group. So you would think she could come out and say, hey, I support Jordan. I don't think Scalise is some demon, but he made a really dumb comment years ago that is not what I believe in. But instead, just like all the rest of them, except for Mason in this instance, I'll give her credit for that. She referring to Greene, she doubles down on it. She says basically fake news, even if there's proof of it. And it's not even surprising at this point. These people can never be accountable for anything, even the stuff that they're not even saying. Like, to just acknowledge the reality that this person you like said something that does not sound good in the context of really any sort of modern sensibilities. I mean, who in their right mind would compare themselves to the leader of the Klan? What political figure would be anywhere would even think that was a good idea? But again, instead of acknowledging that, yeah, he did this, it's been a long time, I think he's learned not to say these types of things anymore. Some kind of like spin that can at least make it more palatable. They just refuse to believe it, and they attack their own member of their party who's really doing it more so just so she can ensure that they don't end up losing elections. Because the speaker is, I always go back to 2010 midterm, where the Democrats lost over 60 seats, just got completely wiped out. And one of the reasons the Republicans did so well with the Tea Party was that they successfully tied a lot of Democratic incumbents to Pelosi, who was very unpopular at the time. They attacked her in these, sometimes in states that she had never even been to with regard to campaigning. This person's a Pelosi puppet. This person's going to do the Pelosi agenda. She was a lightning rod for people to use. So it will be very easy for a Democrat next year, if Scalise is the Speaker of the House, to say, hey, do you guys want to have a member of a party whose current leader in the House said that he was David Duke without the baggage? Do you want that? I just think Greene is playing a very dangerous game for her own party. But these people, I don't know. It's easy for her to be like doubling down because she's in a red district, so she's safe. But her, Boebert and the rest of them in these purple districts are places that could theoretically switch over. They're playing a really dangerous game, being affiliated with having someone like that in the top position. So Scalise is, again, a politician who I don't agree with. I really have no fondness for whatsoever. I don't support the act of violence that was taken against him and the threats he's had since then. But I also really don't want to see him get any more power than he already has. I really hope that in the worst case scenario of him becoming speaker, which is not, I mean, there's a higher chance of him than pretty much any other member of his party besides Jim Jordan, who's also problematic for other reasons. I hope that he goes the way of someone like Steve King, the congressman from Iowa, where they're a person who was in the House for a long time until their mouth started catching up with them, and so they just get completely canned by their own party, where members of their own party are like, hey, look, forget a leadership position. I don't want him in this Congress at all. I really hope that happens with Scalise, where he just ends up being another Steve King.